Hey, my name's Matt, and I'm the developer of a game called Burden of Proof, which released in 2018. We're going to continue the discussion with part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, feel free to check that out now. This is going to be the last half of the footage that we recorded in 2021, so again, it's going to be a little out of date, but the thoughts and ideas that we had at the time are probably still relevant now. There is a new game coming out, which is a sequel to Burden of Proof, so I hope you'll check that out. And I do want to warn that there are spoilers for pretty much the entirety of the first game, so feel free to click away if you care about that stuff. That said, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so this is where I think the game really comes to life, and it's unfortunate that I didn't think of better ways to introduce the characters and the situation, like maybe could have added more urgency, more action, but I do think this is where the game starts to shine, is where we go through the heavy logic of what happened and solving the mystery that's been presented to us. Okay, so we're in this scene now.
Yes, his shoulder.
Yes. It's a very square shoulder. So these audience members kind of just mixed and matched the clothing. It's mostly the same model, but I tried to add as much variation as I could. And they are low on detail, because they are background. They're just constantly sitting here. They don't have animations or bones. But then you might be wondering, how did I get them to bob up and down in that shot? Well, that's because a group of them are just parented to an object, so they follow that object's position. And there's a couple groups, I think there's like 3, and I just move those 3 groups offset by a little bit of time on a sine wave. So that's how I get them to move up and down. So characters that I group together will move together, and they just go on the path of a sine wave, and I thought that was a pretty neat effect to just get the crowd moving in those wide shots. And then we do have the critical piece of evidence sitting right behind us.
Yes, Exhibit A.
And I was hoping to do this for more of the evidence, but I guess I just didn't get around to it or forgot. So it's not often that you see evidence in the trial room. They are floating. The camera never goes behind this, so...
Except for the judge.
Yeah, the judge does get a chair, although I don't know if he's...
I do feel like the judge is like super high off the ground. He might be scared to get down.
Yeah. I mean, the logistics of this is that, like, I wanted the judge to be on top of these other 2 guys.
It makes him look so tiny.
Well, when the camera comes, it zooms in right to this, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, from back here...
From over here.
I mean, that is his actual... He's scaled correctly. He's just...
Yeah, no, he is. He is. Could you imagine just some giant man being your judge? P5 you're guilty. He'll go to jail.
We have to appease the giant. Yeah, so he's on this little thing here. Even though you don't really see, like, this wood block, I just wanted to make the chair on something. His feet are going straight into that. Yeah, and these sun rays here, it's actually just a transparent texture, so that's a very old school way of doing it. That there's just a texture there at the edges of each one, which is representing the sun coming through. It's a pretty nice effect, although it rarely gets seen.
This is before ray tracing.
Yeah.
We're still in before ray tracing.
Yeah, pretty much. There are dust particles going around, so another common theme of this game to improve the graphics. These halos here, these light glows.
Transparent spears.
No, it's actually the Unity Halo feature for lights.
Ah, yes.
which comes down to, yeah, it's just a transparent...
Which, for some reason, the lights have shadows.
Yes, that's because it's actually only this light which is active. So the shadows being cast are from this center point. And I think this one as well. I had a minimum or maximum of 2 real-time lights per scene, so that's the budget
Or
I was working with. And I couldn't bake the lights out because potato.
I mean, you could have waited a year
Yeah.
to bake it out.
So a secret that I was showing off camera before was that there's a little prop hidden behind this thing. This is from one of my past games called Skyway. It's the most simple block shape you could ever find, but the the level geometry in Skyway was pretty basic, so this is all I could get that was recognizable. And I just fit it in here because it's fun. The prep room lounge sort of area scenes that happen are actually just right here. So canonically in the world of this game, this is where this room would be, roughly. But I also just made it here so that I didn't have to do a scene transition just to get to it for these short scenes. So the objects that are in here are only loaded when those segments happen. And conversely, the courtroom objects get deloaded when that happens. This is rarely seen. I just made these little, like, sword and shield items here. Decals that sort of go on the desks.
You predicted Pokemon Sword and Shield.
No. I just wanted some way to distinguish between the prosecution and the defense. So I came up with these icons to sort of go on there and label them. And then the hammer for the judge. Alright, so here's our defendant. So that's a detail I think people missed as well. The time-lapse thing that happened at the beginning, where the clock was increasing time. If you look closely, he is supposed to be here already while the court is empty. And then it pans up, does the time-lapse, and then when it pans back down, it's full. So that's to indicate that he's been here all day. In other words, that's how seriously he takes his job. And it foreshadows some other aspects later in the game. So yeah, I felt it was kind of weird because in Phoenix Wright you just have the judge, and he's the one that decides everything, so you're convincing him in those games. And there is, like, you know, small plot lines where it's like, oh, they have to work with a jury or something like that. But I wanted to keep it sort of similar, but still have more sway. And I thought that having a voting system would make it more challenging for the main character, because he has to convince multiple people, and also just like more fair, and you know, throw in a bit of differences to how it works. It ends up being that this character is just very set on punishing everyone that comes in here, and this guy is very understanding of everyone that comes in here, and the judge ends up being the deciding factor anyways for most of the part. So
This is a video game, and it's great. You just have to convince one guy, because the other one is not going to do it, and the other one is definitely going to do it. So you're really just trying to get one.
and there's the rare character turn at the table.
I mean, what was the hardest thing you had to do for this game?
The sweat on Cross.
No, that was pretty easy. In fact, I think it's the default particle. Would have to be... Some of animation was a challenge because there's a lot of characters. Even though I said I keep the cast limited, it still ended up being a big amount for me to do alone. I did all the 3D models and for the characters, and all of the animations for the 3D models. So that meant I had to really reuse some of them. So
And really push yourself.
yeah, I guess doing the character models too was a big challenge. For a long time during development, some characters were just default cylinder until I could get to the 3D model. Even though I ripped most of the 3D models from other characters and just tried to modify things to save time, still took a while to get that done, get it all up and running. And with the level of detail that I do now for my characters, I would not be able to support such a big cast unless I spent more time on it. Okay, so this first thing was also tying into the photo mechanic. This was supposed to be select any one of the photos that you took from the crime scene, but it ends up just being this one. It was me.
It was you the whole time.
That wasn't a special response, that was just the default response. And his animation just keeps looping there, so it's a bit of a struggle. I think writing was also a big challenge overall. Oh, the first objection. Yeah, this animation was interesting, but yeah, the objection. It's just text and a vignette effect, which pops in and out. I think I hand-coded all of the elements of that. I didn't use any like keyframes or anything, so it's tough to get that set up, but it allowed for me to do any kind of word that I wanted in there. Owner of the car. Oh, I know this one. It's me. It was me. What?
Nani?
No?
And so it begins. Yeah. This is putting that in there because I knew that I was gonna go crazy with this feature. Oh, puns. Yeah, and this zoom is actually just a secondary camera point with a higher field of view, or lower, I should say. And when I use the smooth camera function, it can essentially zoom in to that closer field of view. It's the same thing that I use to go smoothly from one side of the courtroom to the other. Yeah, and some animations allow for characters to hold things. That's how I get this. It's just always on his hand, but just enabled or disabled depending on what animation he's playing. You did it. So right,
Exactly.
yeah. So right there was the camera transition from one side to the other. So I built in a couple preset, like essentially macros of doing the crowd reactions and able to just play each one.
That's crazy.
Oh, confidence.
Oh. This is a cool art. A decisive witness. What about discovery, man?
No such thing.
No. I just thought of the Legal Eagle YouTube channel. I needed an episode on Phoenix Wright. And now I can't stop thinking about it.
What did he say?
No, he said that there's no discovery.
Exactly.
Everything is brought up into the middle of thing. That's so weird.
Yeah, because it's got to be revealed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, exclamation mark. That about sums it up. Oh.
Cough. We have found the culprit. Now he's gonna die.
He's just caught a cold.
COVID.
Oh.
Oh. This was before COVID, unfortunately.
This is 2018. Lie under oath? And then it just, goes to the wide view. And actually the game takes place in, right now it's 2006, I think. Whoa, seems right into that. Okay, there she is.
Ramona Flowers. It's almost like I've read that name before. What time is it?
It's 10:10.
Damn, it's that early in the morning?
Oh, I thought you were asking me. Oh, that's what it says. No, yeah, and here it's like, I don't know, whatever the clock landed on, it's like noon or something. This is actually the only character model that I didn't make for this game. This is made by the same friend that designed the UI for this. And the first of many crazy witnesses. So, his gimmick is that he just says yeah a lot.
Very serious.
He's taking this very seriously. I guess I should talk a little bit about the story, and how that was a challenge. I basically went in like January of 2017 and just started writing this thing, like just right from chapter 1. Like, I don't think I had any outlines or goals. I just wrote the crime scene. And, you know, back in that, when I first started, I didn't have that opening with the sword, which I think was more impressive writing than what I was doing back in early 2017. I just went straight in, got deep into the logic of this, and had, like, chapters 1 and part of 2 done. And then that's when I really started, like, doing the programming and mechanics and stuff like that, and the characters. So for a long time in development, you know, I was finishing up chapter 2, really. By the time I had like a demo and stuff like that for recording trailers, it was mostly just chapters 1 and 2. And I think I struggled with chapter 2 because, like, I just felt it was boring at times, which is a common challenge for me with writing. You know, finding all of the logic and how things fit together means that I have to sometimes go back and reanalyze things, rebuild certain parts of the story. I asked someone to write chapter 3 or help with writing chapter 3, and I've talked about this before on the forums, but they kind of fell through, didn't really do anything, so I was left without that part, and I had skipped ahead to chapter 4, and by the time I was done with that, it was late in development, and, you know, I was finishing up chapter 5, like, I was writing, you know, right up until the end, I think, and I just did not have a chapter 3 to put into the game.
Who needs a chapter 3?
So,
You just did 1, 2, 4, and 5.
yeah. I mean, so I also mentioned that because I skipped over 3, it allowed me to do some more interesting stuff for 5 and really make a big fleshed out ending, thanks to the additional time that I bought by not having to worry about chapter 3. And I did have chapter 3 completely outlined, I think, because I was really nailing down how it was going to be, and it was also a flashback case where we like learn more about the characters. There's a lot of specifics I could probably write about it, since a lot of people that played were actually really interested in having that full chapter 3 and questioning like what happened to it. And, you know, in the end, I just cobbled together what I could and made an abridged version, essentially, of the chapter. So that it just summarizes what would have happened and then cuts straight to the, you know, events in the current time, because it was a flashback anyways. So chapter 3 ended up being very short with no puzzles, no trials, but the events that I had planned still happened in my head. So if I ever, you know, come back to this, oh, I shouldn't say that. In the future, I might want to tackle how that
Possibly There might be more if you want to add more.
Yes.
Let's just say that, right?
Yeah.
And there's always room for expansion.
It would be in like a sequel. If I got around to, making a full sequel for this game,
Of course.
I might want to touch on the subject of Chapter 3, maybe flesh out some of what the people want to see.
I mean, Burden of Proof will and has always been your baby.
Unfortunately. No, I'm kidding.
Unfortunately.
It was definitely, rewarding to see how the scenes came together in the end, with the music that I wrote and the logic of the stories coming together, but I also felt like I had a lot of shortcomings with how the characters were and the level design and stuff that I just wasn't experienced with yet. So I've been working to improve on that stuff, and any sequel would definitely see the benefits of that. This is introducing a new feature, which I don't think I've seen in other games of this genre, where you can choose to object to something. So you're in control of whether or not you object to a statement, and that in itself results in a branching path, with multiple possibilities and a possible penalty.
Yes, the diagram.
I don't think I had a tablet at this point, so I was working with like the mouse, although in hindsight these are mostly squares, so I could have made it a little neater, but yeah, it's a tough time trying to make these diagram things, and I would probably put more effort into it nowadays. Okay, so that means that I can object to this and it'll result in a branching path. What should I do? So, I think it is kind of satisfying to hit that button and get the objection. I used a lot of songs that were, Creative Commons, stuff that I could just find online. But I also tried my hand at writing some original songs too, and those I think ended up being some of the best in the game, and also, a selling point, in fact, for the game itself. And I think people really enjoyed the songs that I wrote. It was tough because I was like using different programs for each of the songs. Yeah, the old ones, the first one that I made was the cross objection theme, which I don't think we've heard yet. It was supposed to be the anti version of the Phoenix Wright objection theme. I basically looked at how the notes were and changed the order. So instead of them like ascending like they do in Phoenix Wright, I just took that pattern, reversed it, and made my own chord progression over it. So I'm talking about the arpeggio, the ARP instrument synthesizer.
Yes,
so
of course.
I'm using some of the same elements to try and capture the feel, I guess, but making it my own. The other songs, I took that same synth idea and just made more variations of it and overlaid violins and stuff to make it cinematic, and that's a style of writing that I liked and stuck with me, and actually, influenced how I wrote a lot of the other songs that I did for other games, including Iron Reckoning. I wrote a lot of songs for Iron Reckoning, and finding the inspiration for those pieces kind of relied on the same techniques as Burden of Proof. I would just take a pattern and overlay a chord progression that I thought was interesting, and then try to vary on that as much as I can and reuse. Like, the key part of Burden of Proof soundtrack is that I take the exact same song and then just speed it up, change the elements, and, you know, it provides the consistency. Because it's the same thing that we've been hearing, but with more urgency or more calm, or, you know, change the key and you get a happy version of the song instead. And a lot of variations like that. And those are some great soundtrack tips, I guess you could say, for making everything sound consistent. Here we're in the same room, but just in the Unity project. This is way more behind the scenes than what I've been showing, but the project file's right here, scene objects here, so this core thing controls all of the flow of the game. Has a lot of scripts on it that I put with a lot of parameters, and this was written in JavaScript.
Of course, yes.
So,
way back in the day.
Back in the day, when that was still acceptable in Unity.
And then they made the correct decision to move to C#.
Hey, that's an opinion. But I do actually...
That was a bit actually supposed to be sarcastic, if you couldn't tell.
I do like C# better now that I've learned it. It's more secure about what types I'm working with, and has some really good features. Like
you learn coding in JavaScript, so I learned coding in Java, so I like my strongly typed.
Yes.
I like my strongly typed languages.
Well, the thing I like about C# is it's strongly typed, but I can still use shortcuts like var. And with IntelliSense...
Yeah, and some people like drugs, okay? That doesn't make them right.
You don't think...
It's a drug, you know? You're addicted to it. It's not good for you.
Like
the better thing is to strongly type it. What?
You think IntelliSense is bad?
I think it's bad for you, you know? It's fine in like a little bit, you know. They're making weed legal now in a few states. But like that doesn't mean everyone should get hooked on heroin, man. You gotta get off them IntelliSense, okay? You gotta use your strongly typed integers.
Yeah,
you gotta put your objects properly.
Manage the memory by hand.
Oh, okay. See, that's where I draw the line right there. Garbage collecting, I prefer. Okay,
that's the same idea. It's like, you know, you take the shortcuts.
Not the same idea at all.
You take the higher language that like doesn't have to deal with that stuff.
Nah, no. There's a big difference between having
we got a hypocrite in the audience.
Hiring
here.
Someone to clean your room, than going out and asking someone to turn it on and off your television when you're too lazy to do it yourself. All right. I had my fill.
Thank you for that. Here you can just kind of see, like, this is just a resource list of all the sound effects in the whole game, or I guess...
see, this might be part of your problem.
Well, I wouldn't do it this way nowadays. Back then, like...
No, of course not.
You know, I had a class for every single thing, and so, you know, this is the name of it. It's ding.
Audio right, and then there's audio left.
Huh?
No, it says audio right.
Oh, no, that's audio R for resources.
You understand why I'm confused there, right?
Yeah, well, it's only me reading this. This is my developed project.
Now
here.
I get to make fun of your writing.
So the script or the story, novel parts happen in this notepad. So I just literally copied it over from Google Docs and added in the commands. So all of the animations, anytime there's an animation change, I use the @ symbol.
You could have totally done this with XML, though.
That may be above my expertise. So I, hand-coded what the commands should be, and then also defined them for the entire, 10-hour length of game that exists. These are all parameters that control the camera. So here's a new cam being generated based on these angles and positions with that distance. This is require evidence. It's ensuring that you have the evidence that you picked up for certain areas. And this is the ID of that evidence. And these are required profiles.
If you look at it quickly, it looks like it just says wrap.
Yeah, it's the wrap. And this is the blip index, which is kind of another detail that some people might have missed. So different characters that speak actually use different audio
Beep, beep, beep,
yeah,
beep, beep,
noises for when they speak. So I tried to make it so that the female characters had a higher pitched sound. Cross has a pitch of 1.1 instead of 1.0 just to make them a bit more unique. Here's a music command and the ID. So this song is called Man Down. And this %S is the smooth camera. The F is for speed. So this is like the text plays back fast.
And then it says WWS2.
Yeah, so
Ooh woo, Mr. Cross.
no, that's the W is for weights, so it's 2 weights and then a shake. So that's a camera shake.
Yeah.
And then this, I believe, is a sound effect. Probably
you the ooh woo sound effect?
no, it's the whip sound. I think it's W for whip.
So you say now. I am kind of kidding. We did see this earlier.
Yeah, I think it gets more complicated with.
Wait, so you purposefully let it look ooh woo because ooh woo has been around definitely since like 2012.
No, I wasn't thinking of that. It's just like
Too late.
there would be other letters there if it was a different sound. It's not just W. I'll try to open up court
You're trying to defend yourself, but there's no defense against
Uwu.
Yeah, and you can tell you're getting a little bit more comfortable with your whole tool set because you can see it gets a little bit more complicated up at the top.
Yeah, and actually, like, early on, I did not think to automate some stuff, so anytime there's a period, I felt like that should be a point where it waits for a little bit and then plays the next part. So I was actually manually doing that for chapter 1. So whenever there is a period, I would like go in and say, hey, it should wait. It would do the wait command and then do the next part. But I had to do that for every single line. You can imagine it took forever. So then I realized, wait, I can automate this. And I just wrote a system that could detect in code that it should wait when it encounters a period and then a space. So that's what this is, the auto wait parameter.
Yes, of course.
So I had to build that in only for scripts after chapter 1, because that's when I realized I could do that. Yeah, the G is for gavel.
Dunk.
And this is what it looks like when you have the cross-examination, which we didn't get to yet, but this is where you can navigate through their statements. So these are ST numbers, and then what the statement is, and then just more commands that signify when they end. And this marker system, when you have MT, that's move to marker, and then it just searches in the script for where that marker is and just goes to it. So that's how I can skip around and do choices and stuff like that.
Of course, yes.
And here, right here is one of those choices. The $$ is what signifies a present question. And then you have your options here. These are the actual IDs. And here you can see I made one for Conrad Cross. I made the mark. You weren't at the scene.
It was me the whole time.
He's like, well, I thought it was funny. So that's how those little branching path interactions are made. It knows to go to this marker, and then when it reaches the next CH, that stands for choice, then it knows, hey, I should go back to this question. And when it reaches MT continue, then it knows, hey, I should leave this this part and go to the next part of the script. And all the script objects for the entire story just sit in here all the way up to chapter 5. The scripts that get played are just sitting here in objects that have yet to be called because they require unconditions. So this tab right here for story, this is the condition that tells you when this is going to play. So this is a very naive way of doing it where I just list all of the chapters and have a checkbox for when they should be playing. Nowadays, what I do is just list only when it should play, and I just specify the integer number where it should play instead of having all this nonsense. But I somehow thought...
Yeah, it makes it a little hard to read, but hey, you know, it worked. The beauty of it is it worked.
Yeah, I somehow thought that this would be better visually because I could see when things happened based on their name. And I wrote an editor's script to auto-populate the names and stuff so that I could see where everything was happening. But in hindsight, that's not very useful. Oops, that's not a command anymore. Not in old Unity. It's a reflection probe. It just takes a picture of the area and then lets it be used on metallic surfaces like this thing right here. So you can see the reflection in this. And yeah, all of the entities in the game already exist in the scene. They're just hidden by default. So it's due to the script that they get re-enabled. Here's Ajax.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
So unfortunately I couldn't do any animations for him. I think he was supposed to be like... He was supposed to have thinking animations and stuff, but this is one of those things that had to be cut, so he just ended up being static. But it was fine because he's kind of stuck on this chair, so... Here's Thorn's guards. And towers. And props like the demonstration board here also considered entities so that they can be enabled at will. And the little thing that goes on the board. And even the zero data when it shows up on his desk. Oh my. Just little remnants here of like...
I was gonna ask, why do you think his hair was acting weird?
In the game or in this?
In the editor.
Because it's probably overlaid with the other hair. So for Cross, I actually made this hair initially. This was made with curves and stuff like that. I had a curve and then took a mesh along the path of the curve and just did that to make all the little pieces. And then afterwards, I just turned it into a mesh and combined it to make this, which is the final actual hair. Nope, I guess they're not visible. Or unless this is it. This little dot on the floor. Yeah, this is the hair strand. So that's what I used to make the initial hair, and then I turned it into a mesh. So those are the two versions of it there. Oh yeah, you can see each one individually. Hair strand 23 through 30. I guess finally just that all the positions for characters are here in this list. When I need to move someone to a position, it just looks up this list. Same with the camera angles, they're all here. So the camera angle for the judge and so on. And this doesn't cover the auto-generated angles that we see at the top of every script. Like right here. So that's the cross cam. And you might wonder, like, how do I possibly line this stuff up? Well, it's because there's a feature in Unity where I can align an object to the editor view. So when I do that, I can just point the editor camera at something, line this object up to that, and then that is the representation of that position that I saved. So that's how I made all of these. So I think that about covers it. You can see into my soul here, into the x86 libraries. We didn't get to the credits, but there are actually, spoilers, 2 versions of the credits, because one is a fake out, so that's in fact a separate file, which is used, read in for the special UI. And all the evidence is here. All of the data that gets used, and even the updated versions. So yeah, thanks for listening to me rant for a bit.
Just a short rant.
Yeah. I hope that provided some insight into development and some of the challenges that I had along the way. I think I'm pretty proud of what I was able to make, but definitely, some key things that were lacking that keep coming back to haunt me, essentially. So I keep working to improve when it comes to characters and music and story and stuff like that. Hopefully I can keep making games in this style, and I might revisit the story as well. So that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, I do.
Yahoo!
In the meantime, I do have Iron Reckoning, which just released a couple months ago. It's not quite the same genre, but it definitely has the same style. Similar music, I'd say, and a lot of it, which is custom. Entirety of music that's used in that game is written by me, so it was a lot of work, and I think it pays off a lot better. So I'd say check it out.
Hey, I'll tell you what. The burden of proof is on you.
Whoa. Here's the potential names that I would have had for this game. There were a lot. And then, as you can see, I settled on one of them.
Yeah.
Deadly Motion. Do you imagine if it was called that?
That sounds dirty. Also, Assault on Justice also sounds dirty.
What about Due Process?
I mean, my favorite part about Burden of Proof is that there's clearly a line that you can do for the sequels, I'm not going to give them away here, but I feel like the other ones, you have to, be like, Guardians of the Law 2. Whereas, I don't know, I like, stories, the names of games and stuff where the title, is different every time, but you can tell if they're, a sequel. Like the Smash Brothers series,
Yeah,
you have Smash Brothers, and then you have Melee, and Brawl, and then they kind of give that up for Smash for Wii U and 3DS. But, I mean, it was cool for a little bit.
Well, we got Ultimate now, or whatever. So
I mean, that's barely a return to form. I don't know about you, but I like to pretend that Smash for Wii U kind of didn't exist. I really enjoyed that game, but kind of, it's just worse Ultimate at this point. Oh wait, there was other things like the whole Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Before we started getting into 4, 5, and 6, with the prequels.
it was just called The New Hope.
Each
Oh, no,
one
it
had
wasn't.
its own unique title. I like that. I think.
Oh, it was the same for Indiana Jones.
Oh yes, Indiana Jones is another great one. You can always know where it comes from. And I think
Hey, it's
you will
you.
always know. Ah, yes. I
Guess
did
which one is him.
absolutely nothing. Oh, that's not 100% true, but I did absolutely
No,
nothing.
you tested. You alpha
I
tested.
did test it. No, I did test it, but compared to everything else you did,
How come I didn't get to test this game?
Because you weren't alive.
I was alive.
No. You were born after
I was very
2018.
much alive. 3 years ago.
are we sure about that?
I think so.
It's 4 years ago at this point.
Is it 4 years? No. It's 2018.
He's living in 2022 already.
I don't like this year. If you haven't noticed.
Anyway,
Huh?
so, yeah. Go on.
Yahoo.
Oh. Hope that was insightful. I'll peace out. How is it 11 already?
A lot has happened.
Yeah, clearly. Thanks for...
Cross was evil the whole time.
Shh.
Well, yeah, you just kept ranting.
That actually is a spoiler. I'll have to cut that out. You know how I was saying, like, the irony of that, like, you keep presenting him as the answer, but the final question is, like, who was the culprit? And then, ironically, oh, it is Cross.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. I hope this has been insightful, and...
I love you, bye.
I'll catch you next time.
And cut.
And then-
You gotta plug your Twitter first. You gotta plug your Twitter. You gotta subscribe, like.
Click the bell.
yeah.
Yes!
Please do all those things, and keep up
Yeah,
with...
please do all those things and follow at Raw Productions Games?
No, it's just...
At Raw Productions. On Twitter.
Because I do post a lot of my new game stuff.
Yeah,
and
check out his, he gives updates,
Mhm.
and, you can see just how hard he works.
Indeed.
Let's work hard.
Hey. I am working currently on a game that is very similar to Burden of Proof style, visual novel. And I have already announced this on Twitter, that's why it's not a big reveal. Yeah, you can check out my progress
Updates
there.
for the game. It'll be out next year.
Don't make promises.
I can't make those promises. I have no effect on when this game comes out. I just gave a date for no reason.
Yeah, give it a specific thing, like just call out like, hey, May 15th.
Hey, you said it. Now you have to do it. May 15th, 2022. It's gonna come out.
Hopefully sooner than that. I'll just tell you that much. But,
Oh, now you can't. Now you can't. If it comes out May 14th, 2022.
anyways, yeah, I always post my updates there, so I hope you'll witness my evolutions and improvements that I've been learning in game development, and hopefully that should all come to fruition soon, and you can see some brand new stories and new stuff that I've been building. So, thanks for watching. Alright, so that was the end of the discussion, and I hope you found that insightful. As with all of my games, Burden of Proof was rewarding, but also a challenge to make. I definitely felt the strain of development, especially towards the end, but out of all the projects that I've released, it definitely holds a special place in my heart. And I still think that there's so much charm to be found within the graphics and the story, and between all the Easter eggs that I included, and the fourth wall breaks, and all that sort of fun stuff. I'm really glad that people were able to enjoy it. The world of Burden of Proof goes pretty deep. I did design quite a lot of history and stuff like that, especially with the new game upcoming. So I would definitely love to talk about that more in the future, but I think this is plenty for now. Instead, I think it's fun to talk about what's next. So in the new game, Burden of Truth, you will get to see a fully fleshed out Chapter 3 that's been expanded into a full game. And there's a bit more to the game than just that, but I'll leave that for you to discover on your own. It's definitely been interesting revisiting the story, writing new dialogue for all the characters, getting back into that mindset, and also creating the graphics. The characters are still fun to work with even all these years later, and I think that speaks to the original idea that I had for them, and how they work so well in a story together. So I hope you're as excited as I am for the new content to be released. I know it'll be probably a bit of a wait before you can get your hands on it, but as always, it is hopefully worth the wait, worth the effort for me to put it all together. And I know that people who played the original game will be very happily surprised at just how much things have improved in my development process over the years. I think it would be fun to do more postmortems for some of my other games too. So I'll definitely look into that, and I would also like to share more about Burden of Truth and how the story carries over, the themes, the improvements that I've made, and what exactly we're going to see revisited in the sequel. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope it was fun, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you very much, thank you for playing, and I'll see you in the next one.